great to spend some time with you, Mr. Strikes, and thank you for showing me around your home. It's a beautiful property, and you should be very proud of what you've been able to bring together. Now, as you mentioned, your English is your second language, and my kids always say to me that sometimes I speak as if English is my second language. So if I speak too quickly, just ask me to repeat or explain things. It's important that you feel as if you're fully across what I'm saying today. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Now, I've had a look around your property, and it's a delightful property. It will present very well to the market, and it's in high demand. It's that classical family home, and I think you should be very pleased with how you've got it ready to go to market today. Obviously, there's going to be some things that I can suggest, and we'll work through that as we go. In particular, a couple of things that I really noticed that stands out that creates a lasting impression on buyers is when I walked into your property, into the main entry area, I was really delighted that it had that lovely landing, and then it had a double door opening up. That really presents and welcomes people in, and it creates this sense of leaving the hustle and bustle of outside world and settling into a nice family home. The double doors is very functional. It creates a real status in the way in which we enter the property, and I love the fact that you've got those little areas that people can take their shoes off and really leave the outside world and come into an oasis. So that's beautiful. And the fact that it opens up onto your main living area, which is very open, very light and breezy with full glass, actually is a beautiful setting. It really does make it welcoming, and you can see how families have enjoyed living there. And that will appeal to a buyer, especially in the core target market that we're looking for. And thirdly, the fact that you've removed and renovated that wall and opened up with a beautiful kitchen with that big, deep bench, that is absolutely spot on with running a house ready for sale. The beauty of that is it's obviously functionally very practical, but it opens up so that the person that's cooking and preparing meals is actually going to be able to engage with the family. That creates a lovely home life, and that's really desirable from that perspective. Overall, your property presents very well, but those three things that I know in first impressions in that first few minutes when buyers walk in will be memorable, and that's what we're looking to create. So that's a great start. Now, obviously, we're here to talk about what could we sell your property for, and how much would it cost, and what sort of expectations you can have. But before I get into some of those answers, what I'd like to do is just ask you a few questions. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, what's your time frame to sell your property?
Immediately.
Immediately? Okay. That's terrific. And do you have a price in mind?
No, that's why we've invited a real estate agent to come and appraise it.
Yeah, and that's pretty normal, and I'm sure you've had a couple other real estate agents in, and I suspect our appraisals are going to be very similar, and I'll talk to you how the industry as a whole goes about that. How long have you owned the property?
About 20 years.
Oh, so a good long time here. You've been connected to the community, and you've been connected to this property.
Mm.
Yeah, that's terrific. And what has triggered the sale of the property?
Downsizing mainly.
Downsizing. I did notice when I talked to your wife that she talked about the grandkids and her daughter and so forth. So it's the next phase in your life. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So downsizing is definitely a priority. So just wanted to confirm you are definitely looking to sell your property now.
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so obviously there's some structural changes and a few things modifications you've made to your property that I just want to clarify some of those. I noticed the back deck appears relatively new. Is that the case?
Yes.
Okay, that does really open up the living area, and I think that's a lovely addition. Can I just confirm, is it council approved?
Yes, it is.
Okay, terrific. And I noticed that the main area that we're sitting in seems very fresh and recently painted. Is that the case?
Yes, we got it done last year in preparation to sell.
Okay, so you've been planning the process of selling. Okay, that's terrific. Okay, so what I'd like to do is is there any questions that you might have?
What are the market influences that are likely to affect this listing?
Okay, well, as you'd be aware, the interest rates have been low for some time, and there's even talk today that the Reserve Bank's going to drop their interest rates a bit further. And that's really stimulating demand for property. So one of the influences is that with lower interest rates, people are more open to actually buying and stretching their finances because they can afford the repayment. So that's driving demand. So that means there's a lot of buyers in the market. At the same time, we are seeing that continual desire for renovations, and also people as a general trend are feeling a little bit reserved about selling their properties. It's a big process and there's some uncertainty in the market. So what we're actually seeing is a contraction in the number of houses for sale, and that means supply is low. So you have a lot of people looking for properties, especially from down south, coming up from Sydney, but you don't have a lot of properties on the market right at this moment. So that is putting upward pressure on the housing. So it's certainly a time to sell. It's a real seller's market. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Right. What I'd just like to do is just talk to you about a couple of improvements that we could consider. These are things that you can do that don't require too much investment, but will just help present the property a little bit further and better to the market. They are optional, so don't get too concerned if it's something that you're not looking to do, because you've clearly done a lot so far. And so some of those things is you've done the paintings lovely in the kitchen and the living room and in the main entry. What I would suggest is if we could give the bathrooms and the bedrooms maybe a fresher coat of paint, that would just brighten them up and create that sort of sense that it's consistent with the rest of the property. Now, once again, that will come to a bit of an investment, but it will help with aspects of selling property, the general appeal and the aesthetics of the property, and the sense that it is fully completed. So for a small investment, it does actually help with the sales process, but it's very optional. The other one is street appeal. So you're in a lovely spot, it's up on top of the hill, and you've got a lovely entrance into a beautiful main entry. But what we would also suggest you do is just maybe trim the hedges a little bit, and we need to just maybe weed the garden and put new mulch on it. It gives that sort of spring feel about it. And maybe gurney the pathways going up, that just brightens it up, because first impressions are crucial. Now that's something that you could do, or some help from maybe your family members, or if you would like to, we do have access to landscapers that can come in, and they're quite reasonable. Once again, it's a small investment that makes a big impact. And the third suggestion that we have is styling. Whilst your home is beautifully styled and really relevant to a family and modern living, what we would be doing is just taking it to that classical look of a house ready for sale. So just by simple movements of the existing furniture, the appropriate use of pillows in certain spots on couches and so forth, it just makes the house come to another level. A little bit of decluttering of those beautiful photos of your kids and your life just makes it from an appeal and aesthetics perspective just that more open and easier for people to see how their furniture can come in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So they're just some small improvements. We're not looking to re-engineer the property. We're just sort of saying they are things that you could do, and they're certainly very optional. Okay. So obviously price is what you're really interested in. So let me just talk to you about what we've done in preparation of today's meeting. So we've done a series of research, and what we use to set price is we look at the last 3 to 6 months of sales, and we see for properties that are similar to yours in the suburb, what are they selling for? And we look at those, and you'll see that I've brought a list here, and we can go through that in greater detail. But we look at what we know has happened. So past history is a predictor of future performance. The other aspects we do is we look at what properties are on the market currently, and sort of say, well, what are they setting those prices up? And we know that they'll be slightly higher than what the past has been. That's a general trend. So I've gone through that process with you, and you can see I've sort of written down here that we kind of have a price range around the low 700,000, around 720, 730, up to a top around 750,000. How does that sound to you?
That sounds reasonable, but should we put the property on the market for $200,000 more than what the selling price range is?
It's a tempting strategy, I can assure you, but the answer is no, and let me explain why. The reality is that you're out there competing to get people to come into your home, as you have done, and let them fall in love with it and take an emotional ownership over it. The moment you put the price up at $200,000, you're sending a message to people that you're not serious about selling. You're telling them that the price is out of their budget range for a house that they would probably be interested in, and so they're going to direct their attention to other properties in the suburb or further afield. And so what we want to do is create demand. The other factor is, at that price, you're bringing a different cohort of buyers, and they're going to come in. And as beautiful as your home is, their expectations will be higher. So you'll just have disappointed people coming into the house, and so that will muddy up the sales process. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to capitalise on the current demand and supply pressures to optimise your price by getting people in and creating that scarcity and that energy of a room packed out with people looking at the property. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So how does that appraisal sound to you? Around that 720 to 750. Obviously, we'd be looking for the top end of that range. Is that sort of what you would like to walk away with?
Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds reasonable.
That sounds reasonable. That's terrific. Okay. What I'd like to do is just have a quick chat to you about some of the marketing, our approach to the market. So what we're recommending, and what seems to work predominantly in this market with this type of property, is what we call private treaty. Now that's the traditional way that you're probably very familiar with, which is the classical, we market the property, invite people into your house, they have a look, and then we commence negotiations in a very private way between yourself and the buyer, and that's what they call private treaty. That's our recommendation for your property. It seems to work best. How does that sound?
That sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions with regards to that?
No.
Okay. So quite comfortable to move forward with that process? Okay,
Yes.
that's terrific. Righto. So. Okay. So what I'd like to do is talk to you about some of the marketing activities that we're going to use to position your property. Okay. Now we've set aside, and I've already pre-done a marketing budget. It's $3,500 because, as you can understand, you do have to spend some money to create the demand and create the awareness. What we do is we like to balance the process of marketing, the mass marketing, to get as big a reach as possible, but to minimise your expenditure. We're a very selective boutique real estate agency, so we're actually just choosing very targeted marketing approaches, and that includes, we'll obviously be going onto the internet and setting up your profile on classical platforms like realestate.com and Domain, which you are, I dare say, familiar with. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, right. Now, to do that, what we do need to do is we need to spend a bit of money on getting really professional photos, because images are such a crucial element to any marketing campaign. So we'll get a professional photographer to work with the stylists and grab some great pictures. We'll also create some really engaging content that really positions not only the features and the benefits, but relating that to the emotional cause that we can attract people to actually want to come and see it. So we'll get some beautiful content written, and that will then lead us into putting a great internet advertisement together so that everybody gets out there, can find it, because social media is such an important part of marketing. We'll also get some signage put up. Now the signage is very traditional way to actually market the program, and that's because so many people are already pre-qualified by the fact that they're driving around your neighbourhood looking for properties for sale. They've made a subconscious decision to move into the district, and so now they're looking what's on the market. The other factor is word of mouth. As you know, people in your district are always interested to see who's selling and who's buying, and the moment they see your house is on the market through the signage, they will be telling other people outside the suburb that might be looking to move in. So whatever we can do to encourage that general awareness, we should do, and it's a low-cost method and a very traditional method. Obviously, we've got our own database of buyers, so we'll be looking to do some direct mails into our own database, but also we'll be taking that content and those images and creating a little fact sheet, a little brochure that we'll be handing out in open homes, but also we'll do some letterbox drops around the immediate area, because we know that people that are renting and or looking to upsize will be engaged and want more information. And obviously the home inspections, when we open up your house to the public to get them to come in and get emotionally connected, to have a look through your property, is a crucial element of all marketing. And what we do that's quite unique is that we always come in a little bit earlier, and we always cook a little bit of scones with permission from obviously yourself and your wife, because what we like to do is create the right atmosphere, and smell is such a crucial element of making these types of purchases. The more that we can make it smell and feel like a home, the better we seem to get a reaction, and it makes our home inspections a little bit more memorable than everybody else. So they're the key components of our marketing plan. As I said, it's an investment of about $3,500, which is very small in terms of traditional marketing, but I think you'll find that it'll give you the most bang for buck. How does that sound?
That sounds nice.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So.
Do you think you'd reduce your commission rate?
No. Well, not to cut you off there, but let me just explain what our fees are and what is included. Okay, so as I said, you get the marketing spend for $3,500. So that's a fee that you will have to pay, and you have to pay that up front once you're ready to move forward. Other things that we can do is we can provide services such as I mentioned, that landscaping service to help set up the front. We can provide services such as house cleaning and so forth. They're additional services. The other thing is that what we do is we are a commission-based organisation, so there's no upfront fees for us in our time in marketing platform. We do that on a success base. And our success fee is commission of 3.5%, and that's what we're going to be charging you. How does that sound?
That sounds alright, but do you think you'd reduce your commission rate by half?
Well, look, that is certainly a trend that does happen on occasions within the marketplace. At Best Realty, what we do is, firstly, I'm the principal at Best Realty, so you get to work with the owner of the agency. We don't subcontract that work once I've had this meeting to a junior staff member. I will be at every open house. I will be your marketing person, and I'll be your contact. The other component that we do is I limit the number of houses I sell. So I only sell, and at any one time I'm only working with 5 people. What that means is you've got my attention, and it's not diluted across a very large portfolio. People that seem to offer much lower commissions, they are really doing it on high volume basis, and they're hoping that your properties will sell, and they try and do as minimum amount of support. And one of the things that you indicated to me that was really important was that you kept abreast of what happens on a daily basis, and that's what you'll get when you contract me. So I will work closely with you and keep you up to date at every stage of the process, but more importantly, I'll be touching base and talking to you about how we can refine and modify our marketing program to maximise how we present it to the market. But I'm conscious that the price and you're trying to put as much away as you can for the next stage of your life. So if it's all right with you, I'd be happy to reduce my commission from 3.5 to 3.3. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect.
Terrific. Okay. Do you have any other questions that you might want to invite or ask?
When will we expect inspections be held? It is difficult for us to be ready to leave the house before mid-morning.
Much the same with me. It's always hard to get going on a Saturday morning, and traditionally we do these on a Saturday. What time would best suit you? Is 10:30 okay? 10:30, 11?
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
reasonable.
Right. Well, that's what we can work towards. As I mentioned, we only work with a few other property owners, so we have great flexibility. So I can actually set up your open homes at 10:30 to 11:30. And as I mentioned, we do provide a styling and a cleaning service, so we can actually bring that in to help you with getting ready. Okay. Other things that we can assist you with is also, I know you do have a little dog. If that's something that you're not comfortable in removing from the house inspections, we do provide, my daughter comes along and she can actually look after your dog and keep it a company so that it doesn't get stressed by people coming to your home. So we could set this up as a 10:30 to 11:30 time frame for inspections. How does that sound for you?
That sounds nice.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
How will you let us know what is happening at the inspection?
That is the important question. That is, how do you stay abreast of what's going on? You're not in the home when we've got all these people in, and how do you know what the reaction is? So what I do is I have two approaches. Firstly, immediately after the inspection, I'm more than happy to meet you back here at the home and take you through the feedback, or I can give you a quick phone call because obviously your day is underway, and I'll just give you an immediate reaction and what seemed to come out of it, if there was any clear indicators of people showing genuine interest and want to move quickly. And then I follow it up. At the end of the day, I write a little summary report in an email and I send that out to you. And that's something you can just keep track of and monitor it. The other thing that we do is all the way through the sales process, so not just the open homes, but all aspects of the marketing program, we will be monitoring the performance and I'll give you updates. So the number of clicks onto your advertisements on the internet, I'll be providing a weekly summary of how that's going so that you know what level of activity and interest is in your property. Does that sound okay? Does that meet your requirements?
Yes.
Terrific. Okay. Now, do you have any other questions?
For all the information you tell us verbally, could you also send an email of that information to our daughter? My wife and I are worried that sometimes we don't hear things too well.
Yeah, look, for sure, I'm more than happy to involve your daughter. What I'll do is I'll send you an email And if you can just confirm with her email details and that that's what you would like, I just need it on record that you would like me to include her, because your information about this sales process is very private. So I'm just conscious of only divulging any information to people that you're comfortable for us to do. And I'm more than happy at any stage for her, your daughter. What's your daughter's name?
Sarah.
Sarah. So I'm more than happy for Sarah to sit in with any of our meetings so that she can hear what we're doing as well as yourselves. Because that language barrier, I do talk quickly, so I'm very conscious of that. So if we can actually help in any way by making sure that you have clear understanding of what's going on, I think that will take a lot of the stress out of the process. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
Terrific. Right. So, now we do private inspections. Do you have any thoughts about private inspections?
I'd like them to happen around lunchtime.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people do want to do private inspections around lunchtime. It's a high demand period. Obviously, people during the week, they're at work and they can get time to get out at lunchtime. And so we try and accommodate that. And certainly, as I mentioned, we only work with a select number of sellers. So with the level of demand in our agency for those inspections, whilst reduced because we only work with a number of properties, what we do find is we have a lot of people trying to get those times because we do generate a lot of demand, a lot of buyer interest in the properties we work with. So I will try and accommodate that. What we will do at times maybe is we might have to move it forward a little bit or push it back. So lunchtime, which is traditionally 12 to 1:30, we might try and slip people in 11:30 or push people out to 2 o'clock. So we'd be looking for your support in that for obvious reasons. In the worst case scenario, I can move one appointment and juggle it based on priorities and likelihood of sale, or the other fallback positions. I do have a colleague that I work with closely, and I can arrange for her to actually sit and take those people through so that we can fit into your schedule. But I think the important thing is that when someone wants a private inspection, they're showing very clear buyer signals, and we need to try and look for as much accommodation as possible. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Okay. Now, we've covered a lot of information there. We've covered off, how we're going to market. We've covered off, the price that you're looking for. We're about to go into look at Form 6, which is your authorisation to get me to represent you, which from indicators suggests that you're very keen for. Are there any questions in this form that you might want to actually run past me?
Part 4, Section 2, term of appointment.
Yeah. So the contract is what you're signing is a authorisation from the Act as your agent, and under the industry codes, we actually do that for 90 days. Now, 90 days, which is roughly 3 months. It's not exactly 3 months, but it's roughly 3 months. It seems to be the sort of time frame best for actually removing the urgency and pressure to make a quick sale, and giving the market time to understand and appreciate what you have to offer and to maximise your price. So 90 days is the term. Obviously, we will review that at around about the 40-45 days to make sure that we're on track to complete a sale. Our average sale time in our practice has been 39 days. So 90 days is more than enough time, but it's not too long. So I hope that makes sense. Any other questions?
Part 4, Section 3, the price.
Yeah, so what we have to do, whilst we've given you appraisal of that 720 to 750, we have to nominate what price we'll probably look to sell. And I would see that being at the top end of that range. So I was going to suggest 745 as the nominated price. That's not the price we have to take, but it's a nominated price that we're going to aim for to take on. Does that sound about right?
Yep.
Okay.
What's the difference between open listing and an exclusive agency?
Yeah, so that's also a terrific question. Firstly, an exclusive agency is what we're talking about today, is that I'll be your agent, and for those 90 days, I'll be representing the property. And so when we sell the property, I earn the commission. Once we get past that 90 days, you may opt out, you may opt to go to an open listing. And that means if you sell the property to someone, a family member that I've never met, or another agent, you might get a couple of agents to come and become involved and they sell it, then they are allowed to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, obviously, just going back to some of the things that you talked to me about, it was really important that you had one contact and someone that can work with you carefully so that you understand and you're taking along in that whole process. That's what you're getting with that exclusive agreement. Is that still making sense to you?
Yep.
Terrific works. Okay. Any other questions from the floor?
The commission.
So as we agreed, we're going to set that at 3.3%. It's slightly lower than what we normally do, but I'm very agreeable to do that. And so what we actually do is that we fill in the form and we make sure that it's known that if we sell it at that 745,000, what commission am I going to earn? And is it inclusive of GST or exclusive? And just so you know, it is inclusive of GST. There's no add-ons on top of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, terrific. All right.
Also, got a question about the authorization to incur fees, charges, and expenses.
Yeah, okay. So that is, once again, going back to those costs that we're looking to add into it. So at the moment, we've agreed to just have the marketing costs of $3,500, and you've noticed I've laid that all out in a plan here for you to go through. And so we will put that into this document so that we have a very clear understanding of what you're prepared to spend and you're authorising. And we won't go beyond that unless we have your authorisation to do so. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. All right, so the next steps in this process is obviously just to sign the forms. And once you've signed these forms, then really the exciting part starts. We actually will organise to invoice you for those marketing costs so that we can get straight into getting the photographer out here, we can get the sign up, we can get some of those internet postings happening, and we can organise and set the date for the first open home. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, terrific. It's a very exciting phase in your life. I know it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but by inviting Sarah into the process, you'll have that extra person on your side just to make sure that you feel in full control of this process. So if you're happy, we'll proceed.
Yep.
Oh, terrific. Thanks for your time, Mr. Strike. And as I mentioned, I'll get that invoice out once you just sign on the dotted line. Terrific. Thank you.